Hey, nakumbe DJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
Streaming 24/7.
24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana. Oh, Afrika nakupenda sana.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another amazing show. The name of the show is called The African Experience. And I'm not alone. My name is Aventina Mabunda. And as always, but now the tables have turned. I'm interviewing our beloved Dr. Hlami Ngwenya, my co-host, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to talk to this amazingly perfect woman, and we'll hear more about her story, how she impacts the life of people around her, how she changes the world of food security and food in general wherever she goes. She's a dynamic woman. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorns, grab your coffee, grab your water, and sit still because it will be one amazing show today. Without much further ado, Doc, welcome to the show.
Oh, Mandla, thank you so much. It feels so awkward because, we are the ones who are sitting there and asking, people questions. It feels a little bit awkward for me to be on the other side. When the video, was playing, I nearly came and said, "This is the African experience." Thank you so much for insisting in, profiling me. It's not an easy one, to be on the receiving end. But yeah, I'm looking forward, to the show.
Wow. And receiving end you are. I mean, you taught me at school and you got to ask the questions that now the tables have turned. Now I get to ask you the questions, which is amazing. But anyway, without wasting any time, because I want people to know who Dr. Hlami is in and out, left, right, and center. I want them to know what a beautiful person you are. So tell us in a nutshell, who would you say, how would you describe Dr. Hlami to someone who doesn't know you?
Hlami is a humble soul. I am actually the last born child of the late Reverend Ngwenya and Laweni Joshua, and the late, we used to call her Jeffro Ngwenya Alda. So yeah, so I'm the youngest in the family. I'm the baby of the family. In the family of six, we have five girls, and yeah, I'm the youngest one. I am a mother of three beautiful children. I call them my little zebras. We will get to that. And I am a professional, but also I am a fun-loving person. I will say that, normally when you are a professional, there are stereotypes to say, if you're a professional, you have to behave like this. For me, I find, beautiful ways of mixing, my playfulness and my professionalism. And I think these two things, can coexist. And yeah, I'm a professional within the agri-food space. Yeah, and I am a Christian as well. What else should I say? Yeah, I'm a fun-loving person. I'm sure as you fire the questions, people will get to know a little bit more about who I am.
Yes, and they'll get to know that you love singing and you come from a family of singers as well. That will be very lovely. We can share on that. So, on that note, how was it like growing up for someone so versatile? I want to know what sort of an environment you grew up in because we all come from somewhere. So, where do you come from? How was it like growing up?
Like I said, I come from a very big family. Maybe just a step back. My parents, both my parents actually originated from Mozambique. So they came to South Africa many, many years ago. All my siblings were born here and all that. So my father had always been a visionary person. You may recall that in Mozambique back then there was war and things like that. And my father was very visionary. He would always go back to Mozambique and maybe pick either a niece or a nephew, so that they can actually come and study in South Africa and all that. So in my family, we were never a nuclear family. I mean, you can imagine we are six, six is already is a half dozen, but I don't recall us staying as a nuclear family. So it means that it's six children plus either a cousin or this one and whatever, but we're never a nuclear family. And my father was a priest, so we also took care of, people within the congregation and the community and all that. So yeah, so I grew up in that very big, extended family. Uh, and my parents were very strict, very strict. The people who knew my father, they know how strict he was. So it was a very highly principled, space where rules were followed and all that, and really highly principled. And my father was one of the people where he didn't go with the flow. If he believed in something, it doesn't matter how many other people do the opposite. If he thinks, this is right and this is what I believe in, even if he's the only person who's doing that, he will continue to do that. So those are some of the values that I picked, growing up, from my parents. My mother, on the other hand, she was a loving, loving, loving person. I think I might have gotten, the loving heart, from her, respectful in her own right, but really, really, she had, like the heart of, I don't know, she was a loving person. So that is the family that I came from. But also, I also want to give credit, to my siblings. In my family, we have what we call the birthright. So it's something that we use all the time, is the birthright. Birthright meaning that by virtue of being born in that sequence, each one of us has a role to play. My brother, for example, he's the only one. We send him around here and there. There are certain things where a brother has to do, and he doesn't question, he does that. And there are certain things that I have to do. In my family, I will say I'm the most educated person, the most, well-traveled and all that. But believe you me, when I go home, I put everything aside. I become, that little girl, to my sisters and all that. And I think this is what the birthright in my family, it's all about. It only works when it's a give and take. So they do send me around and I don't complain because I benefit also from the things that they have to do for me as sisters. So yeah, so it's the family that I come from, it's the family that, made me who I am today. And I really, really appreciate them a lot.
Wow, what a beautiful family. In my family, we have top three and bottom three. So each group knows what its responsibilities are. So it's amazing how there's a bit of synergies. And your dad, when you mention your dad with fondness, he was known for being the strictest person if you went for his catechism. So if you passed those classes, it means okay, you are well cooked and ready for life. So no, I really honor and respect your family so much. So now you mentioned education, right? You mentioned education, that you are the most educated in the family. Tell us about your educational life. What did you study? What inspired you to study what you studied?
It's a very beautiful story. I feel like I've always loved school, so I have been in school for as long as I could remember. So maybe just to go a step back, when my siblings were going to school and I was still young, and I think I was maybe about 4.5, 5, it wasn't time for me to go to school as yet, but I think I was bored. at home. I was bored, and during that time we didn't have, like your kindergarten or your preschool. So my parents told me that, I used to sneak out, in my pajamas because we didn't stay very far from the school. So I need to sneak out in my pajamas, and I will really go to the school, and I will enter any class in my pajamas. And it happened, several times at Magangeni Primary School in Malamulele, to an extent that my mother will say, okay, maybe when you wake up in the morning, let me just prepare her so that at least if when she sneak out, she doesn't go in her pajamas. Fast forward, the principal of the school at the time, he was a visionary man. I don't remember who it was, but apparently he went home and he demanded to see my parents. And my parents listened to him, and he said, no, but this child is coming to school. So we want you to pay for her school fees. And my parents were saying, no, but she's still young. I mean, normally children will go to school when they were 7 at that time, and she was 5. And the principal insisted that, no, you pay the school fees. She cannot just come to school without, paying. And my parents did that. Fast forward, quarterly reports came. Guess who got position 1? So it was me. So that's how I actually,
Pressure.
I went to school, and my parents kept on thinking, if I progress, to the 2nd grade, maybe she's going to fail. Maybe she's going to fail. So throughout my primary education, I had always been the youngest in the class, and I was almost 2 years below my age mate because I went to school 2 years prior. So by the time I was 16, I had finished my matric. Then I went to university
Wow.
at 17. But coming back to what I studied, I remember vividly. So I don't know whether it's because it was the Bantu education system that we were part of. We're not exposed to many career paths. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I remember everybody that will ask me, what do you want to study? I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I don't know whether I wanted to be a teacher because I only saw teachers, because remember, during our time, it's either you see a teacher, you see a nurse, you see a clerk, or a policeman. So I think out of the 4 careers, for me, I was like, okay, teaching is the career that I wanted to do. But consistently, I've always wanted to be a teacher. But looking back and where I am today, perhaps it was not because of the limitation of the exposure that I had. It was just the calling, because I remain a teacher, at where I am now. So yes, I studied, education, but specializing in home economics, and with nutrition. And I think that is where our path, crossed, the first time. So yes, I'm a teacher by profession.
Oh, wow. But now you're not only a teacher, but you specialized in agriculture. What prompted that? Agiana kuna mabrasi pe. So what prompted agriculture in particular?
The story of agriculture is funny. I always say I came into the agricultural sector through the back door. Because remember, I studied, home economics, and I studied nutrition. So when I did my postgraduate, education, I was interested in the nutrition part. But because my father had always been a priest, and during that time we'll do outreach, with the Mozambican refugees and all that. So I've always had, that community development, part of me was actually inspired there. So when I progressed with my education, I specialized in community nutrition. So that was the closest that I had with the community. So I did that also for my master's, where I did, consumer sciences, but really specializing in community nutrition. Where does agriculture come into the picture? So when you study community nutrition, you also have to do extension and advisory services, because you have to work with communities. The closest I had with agriculture is that I taught at an agricultural high school, but I wasn't teaching, agriculture. And fast forward, then I found myself teaching at the College of Agriculture. at Dompisilika College of Agriculture in Marble Hall. So there, they had 3 programs. They had plant production, animal production, and community development. So I went to that college to teach community development and not agriculture. But because I had studied, advisory services, I was the one leading the outreach, program where we're doing agro processing and all that with the communities. And fast forward, one of the lecturers who was lecturing, was teaching agricultural extension, left the college, and there was a vacancy there. My principal back then said, no, but you have studied, advisory services, even though it was within the community and nutrition, I think the principles are the same. Could you then fill up, the gap? I didn't say no. It was additional responsibility for me, but I took, and I started, teaching that subject. So that's how I came into the agricultural sector. And fast forward, here am I, over more than, 30, 20, 25, 30 years down the line, I am, an ambassador within this beautiful sector, and I wouldn't look back.
Wow, and you've got mentees all over the world. Isn't that amazing? I'm sure we'll talk about that in that space that you entered via the back door. In our show, we always talk about godly ideas. When I'm listening to you telling me about how you entered into the space of agriculture, it sounds to me very much like the godly ideas that we're always hearing on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are listening to the brilliant, phenomenal Dr. Hlami Ngwenya as she takes us through her journey, her professional life, and what keeps her going. On this note, I think we should go for an ad break, and then when we come back, we'll hear and listen more from this beautiful woman. Can we go on an ad break, DJ Messi?
Are you ready for the ultimate dietary powerhouse? Look no further than Masana Dietitian's Nutro Boost. Our scientifically formulated low GI food is designed to give you the boost you need to fuel your body and reach your health goals. With NutriBoost, you have the flexibility to enjoy it as a high-fiber cereal or a satisfying shake. Simply mix it with water and indulge in the mouth-watering flavors that we have to offer. But that's not all. NutriBoost is packed with essential nutrients that are beneficial for your overall well-being. Enriched with 20 immune-boosting vitamins and minerals, it's a convenient and effective way to support your immune system. And here's the best part. NutriBoost is gluten-free, egg-free, and high in omega-3, making it suitable for those with dietary restrictions or allergies. Need an energy boost? NutriBoost has you covered. It's high in energy and protein, providing you with the fuel you need to power through your day. Whether it's a busy morning or an intense workout session, say goodbye to midday slumps and hello to sustained energy with NutriBoost. Try it today and experience the difference. For orders or to become a distributor, contact us on the following details.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The show is called The African Experience with myself, Mandla Aventina waka Mabunda. Today it's an exciting one for me because I am talking to my mentor, none other than Dr. Hlami Ngwenya. So, Doc, as we were talking, it seems to me you are a master to all the trades that you attempt to even enter into. Because all of them, when I sit and I picture what you do, all of them you seem to be mastering very well. So now I want us to talk about the many positions that you have held in your life so that people can see how versatile this woman is. How internationally, Africa, everywhere. Please take us through the many positions you've held.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bandla. Mastering of all, I'm not sure, but I try my best. Perhaps before we come to that question, maybe I could maybe share a little bit about the turning point. As I shared that, here am I'm working at the College of Agriculture. I'm leading, the outreach, program and all that. And suddenly I'm teaching, these, agricultural extension and all that. I remember back then, I think it was 20, that was back then, 2001, somewhere there, or yeah, 2000. But anyway, back then, there was a training that was taking place at the college where I was teaching, and I was not supposed to be part of the training. On the day when the training was starting, my rector back then just called me that, there's a training that is taking place here at the college. It's a 2-week training, and I want you to go and be part of it. I didn't ask so many questions to say, no, but why didn't you prepare me and all that? I jumped into the wagon and I went there. And that was a turning point. It was a training where where people were trained in thinking in terms of systems, the systemic change and all that. And fast forward, I became a trainer as well. So I kind of, moved from being a trainee, and I was kind of, elevated to become a trainer. Then I became part of, that, facilitation, team. And I think for me, that is the skill that has changed my life, completely, because from there, I started, understanding, the systemic, intervention, systems thinking and all that. And fast forward, I progressed into my career along, that. And that has opened up a lot of, opportunities for me because, it's a skill that, it's needed even today. Fast forward, then I did my PhD around that, and I began to understand how what makes people tick, and I kind of, professionalize myself, through, practice and mentorship and all that. Okay, and as a result, then yes, I held a number of positions in my career path. I've worked with international NGOs. I've worked within government at very senior position in government, so I understand how government operates. And when I advise, government, I'm advising government for the position of knowledge because I understand, the government systems and all that. I held, a position within the knowledge management. I've done held senior position in skills, skills, development, for your agri-SETA, for example. Then I also work in private sector. Yeah, then I also worked a lot, with international, private sector, organizations as, special facilitator and all that. So I've worked in research and all that. So you remember when we always talk, I always talk about this perfect, which is also part of, my theme today. For me, it is a way of showing the different, stakeholders within the agricultural sector that I have worked with and I continue to support. Hence, that perfect, concept, but we can unpack it a little bit. And because of the soft skills that I have acquired, it enables me to be versatile and be able, you can literally plug me into any space and I'm able to actually, make it work. Another thing that I even forgot, I continue to lecture. I was a lecturer at the University of, Pretoria for some time. And I also lectured at the University of, Free State, for the longest time. So hence, the issue of education, being a teacher, it's following me again and again. And lastly, I going through, that extension and advisory services. I've also worked with the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services, where I consult, with them even now as a professionalization coordinator, which means I'm responsible for anything that has to do with skills development on the global scale this time around, skills development for the extension and advisory services, including, developing, learning material, taking advantage of, cutting edge changes that are happening within our systems and really developing, those skills. So I remain a teacher at heart.
Wow, what a beautiful story. Doc, I want us to backtrack a bit, going back to the turning point. Um, you know, it's not as clear cut for everyone, right? Where you have your aha moment and you're like, this is it. So now, as you know, our show is to inspire everyone, every girl child, every boy child in all corners of the world to wake up, identify their purpose, and do things for themselves. What advice would you give, like anyone really listening, how to identify what your turning point is, be it in your life or in your career or any aspect?
Yeah, I think for me, the advice that I could give is that, the turning point for me, it is something that is actually significant. Something where, and we also talk about the attribution factor, especially when we talk about change and, what is the attribution factor? In your life, I mean, whatever we do in our life, that's something that happens, in our life, which changes our trajectory. It changes what we do and all that. And we can actually identify that. And sometimes that turning point could be something negative, but it really changes, your trajectory and all that, or it could be something, positive. So in my career, I have maybe two significant turning points, but this
Mhm,
one of developing, the soft skills had been a turning point. And from where I am, if I had a chance, I would say, I think this is a skill that every person, whether you're in a technical space or not, these are the skills that, people need to have, at least, from my point of view. And I see how when I utilize, these, because I've perfected, the skills in different ways. So wherever I go, I try to bring this, and people see the difference, because
mhm,
it is something that is unique and is different. So yes, so the turning point in people's life is that that's something that impact you to
mhm,
change, the course of your journey in one way or
mhm.
another. And I think for me that will be the turning point. And people could look at it from your personal point of view or your professional point of view. That turning point, it happens, to us all.
Wow, you know what? As always, you know how it is with the show. You think an hour is long, but now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we need to rush. There's still a lot that we need to talk about, and it's almost halfway through the show. But Doc, we need to acknowledge our listeners, beautiful listeners out there. There's one Mr. Knowledge Nkuna. He says backdoor entrance to agriculture became a front gate. I couldn't agree with that more. I think I concur with you, Mr. Knowledge Guna. It's exactly what has happened. Now, we were still talking about your many positions and how you have worked in government and you have worked in corporate space, private space, you have worked in research, academia, all the sectors. It seems like you have had a stint or two. Now, in all that, you came up with a campaign called Perfect. You briefly tried to explain that to us, but I want us to unpack that. What is perfect to someone who does not know about perfect?
Okay, thank you so much. So, and the word, and maybe just to a disclaimer, I didn't really come with it. I remember there was a colleague of somebody that I was working with called, Christian Beneke, who used that, in the context of, knowledge management. And I'm like, actually, this is so perfect, for what I am doing. And I started, unpacking, that in the context of, what I am doing. And the reason why I use that, because every time people ask me, "You're working in agriculture, are you a farmer?" And my answer will be no. But what are you doing in agriculture if you are not a farmer? Then I realized that, people have the narrow understanding of agriculture through the primary production. So if it's not primary production, then it's not happening. Then I was saying, but here am I. I'm not a farmer per se, but I'm playing a very significant role within, this sector. So perfect is literally an acronym that I use to articulate what I am doing in the sector. So next time, Mandla, when I travel, you can easily ask me, which letter of the perfect are you doing now? So P stands for policies because I work in the policy space. As I'm talking to you now, I'm actually in Rome. Um, at the headquarters of the Food and Agriculture Organization. The Food and Agriculture Organization and the UN, these are policy engine, so they work in the policy space and all that. But yeah, they will be doing many other things, but policies is really the mandate, of, these organizations. So I work a lot within that space, including your African Union and all that, because I understand, agricultural policies, and I can facilitate a high level, policy dialogues, and I can facilitate, processes that lead, to policy development. So the policy is that education, as we have indicated, I'm a teacher by profession, but I also work a lot within the education and capacity building, and I work with a lot of, institutions in and around that space. For example, your Forum, just not so long ago, I was facilitating, events with the deans of the faculties from all over, Africa. I had, almost up to deans and vice deans, 80 from, 40 different countries. So those are spaces that, I will not trade for anything. So R is research. I'm a researcher, social scientist, but I work within the research space, and I work with a lot of, consortiums of research and all that and whatnot. And farming, which everybody think agriculture is all about. I work with farmers, from your commercial farmers, but also your smallholder farmers. When I worked in government, I was heading a program that is really supporting, farmers and all that. So I understand, all the smallholder farmer issues and. The second E is extension and advisory services. So the pathway through which I entered, the agricultural sector. And I worked within that also up to the global level, like, the GFRAS and all that. The C is communications. When I taught at University of Pretoria and when I went to the University of, Free State, I used to teach, extension student, but I was teaching communications for development. So that is where my communication, skills and coupling it, with my facilitation and systems thinking, I will spice, my courses there, and my student will really love that. I remember when I was at the University of Pretoria, my class, which was meant for the agriculture economic student, will attract, students from other departments. From, I remember we had students from, other sciences, because they just love, my style of teaching, and they just wanted to be part of that. And with that communications, I also bring in the issues of knowledge management, M&E, and all that, which it's still my areas of expertise. The last T is technologies and trade. I work, within, that space as well. So when people ask me, what do you do? I say I do the perfect job, not because my job is perfect, but because it's me trying to articulate what I do within, that space. Just last week, I was in Kenya working with, an organization that is dealing with technologies and all that, and I'm able to facilitate and guide because of, the broader understanding of, the sector as I know it. But also, Mandla, I use this not only to articulate what I do, but I also use it as my mentoring, approach, because some people are not interested in farming. But how else could they actually find themselves in agriculture? So I use my perfect concept as a mentoring, and coaching, approach as well, so that people can see the different opportunities that I see without having to go through the farming, pathway, but really broadening it. Yeah. So in the nutshell, that is where the whole perfect concept is coming about. And I see these perfect opportunities at the global level, at the continental level, but also at the national levels.
Wow, it's absolutely perfect. And on that note, thank you so much, Doc. We need to go for another ad break, and then when we come back, you'll tell us why you're always in Rome. It's like it's your second home now. So we need to talk more about that, but hang tight. We'll talk about that as soon as we come back from an ad break. DJ Messi. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking to my perfect Dr. Hlami Ngwenya, the one who does spiced up facilitation. And when I say spiced up, trust me, you need to sit in one of the sessions where she facilitates. You will know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no one sleeping in any of her sessions. She keeps you on your feet. So it's always nice to engage with her. So today we are learning from her. Doc, before we went on an ad break, we spoke briefly about how, every time when we are talking, I always have to check with you. Where are you in the world? Because you are always traveling in the world. And you just mentioned now that you are at the UN FAO headquarters in Rome. Now, Rome, honestly, we're forever saying and hearing about Rome in our show. Tell me about Rome and why you're always there. It's like your second home now.
Thank you, Manda. So Rome, I mean, people, maybe let me go step back, people will know the United Nations. And to simplify it, I always say people need to understand the United Nations as the global government. Like when in in our countries we have our governments, and governments will have different departments. For example, in South Africa, we'll have a Department of Education, we have Department of Agriculture and all that and whatnot. And then you have, in our case, you'll have your Cape Town where, all the ministers will be coming and all that. So people need to understand the United Nations in the same sense. So the United Nations has different, agencies. And for me, those will be the departments that at the global level. So agriculture, the Department of Agriculture of the United Nations is the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. People might know that. If people don't know about FAO, they might know about, the World Health Organization because it became very popular during the COVID. So the World Health Organization will be the Department of Health of the United Nations. Okay, so yes, so coming back to FAO. So FAO, it's the headquarters of FAO, it's in Rome. And there are also two other agencies that are dealing with the food and agriculture related things. The one agency is IFAD or IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development. It's also based in Rome. Then we have the World Food Program. It's also based in Rome, the headquarters. So hence everybody, every time I'm coming to Rome. So as I said that I also work in the agri-policy space. So FAO, that is where the global policies when it comes to agriculture are negotiated here, are discussed here. So time and again, there will be an event, whether it's a policy dialogue or it's a conference or whatever, where they are bringing the member states and all that. So I participate not only as a participant, but facilitate, a number of, events. I was here just 3 weeks ago, where I was facilitating the first, global conference on animal health, vaccines, and innovations, and so yes, for me it is significant because it was the first event, and I am the one that was selected, to come in and facilitate that. To see how significant this is, you have to think that the countries that are members of the UN, in this case, in 195 countries. So you can imagine the chances that, somebody gets selected in those 195 countries with over, 7 point, I don't know how the population is now, 7.8 billion people. The chances of you being selected there, it's nothing, it's not significant. So that's how significant it is, to be selected, to not only to participate, but to lead these discussions and all that. So I've supported, FAO, not only at the headquarters. I've done a lot of, events, at regional level, at national level and all that. So yes, so that is why and if you do something for an organization and they call you again the second time and the third time, it means something. And I don't take it for granted.
Basically, if you get invited to FAO, you have made it.
You
You've
have
made
to
it
look
in
at
your
that. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Doc, I'm so, I'm so sad because the time is just running and I'm really enjoying myself. But on that note, on your facilitation, because that has now set you on a global scale. I know you offer consultation services around that. Please take us through your facilitation company and what is it, in a nutshell, briefly, what you do there,
Okay,
from
so
the name to everything, what you do.
yeah,
Yes.
I have a company called Facilitation of Systemic Change and not systematic, systemic change because it's about systems and the change that comes from within. And I think, so I offer, those consulting services. I do facilitation. I do, strategy development, for different organizations. I facilitate change management and many other, soft skills related, functions. I do, skills audit, I do M&E, I do knowledge management and all that. I do tailored, training. And I emphasize tailored because my approach is the systemic change. So no training that I provide, it's similar to a training that I'll give for someone else because context
Mhm,
matters. So I actually tailor it so that at the end of the day, when you are done with that, training, something has changed in you from within. And I
mhm.
think that is where the systemic, and change it is. And
Oh,
as you
wow.
rightfully say, Mandla, sometimes it's very difficult to articulate how it is different from any other facilitated event and all that. It takes somebody
Mhm,
to be part of it to actually appreciate the difference. So and
mm.
I'm happy that you have been in the sessions where I facilitated and you'll see people will see it's different, but it's very
Yeah.
difficult for me to articulate it. But the taste of of the pudding, it's yeah, they have to taste it, I guess. Yeah. Mm.
No, I mean, I would urge anyone who, if they hear that you're facilitating, be it in church, because I know you also do that, be it in a government space, corporate space, just come in and just sit in and listen. I promise you, you've never heard facilitation like Dr. Hlami does. Is that why the name is facilitation of systemic change? Is that where that is coming from?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Mhm.
it's not just facilitation, it's facilitation of systemic change. And I put systemic in broad because people confuse that with systematic. Systematic, it means something completely different. But systemic is, where you want to bring the change that comes, from within. So whether it's a 2-day event or it's a 1-hour session, if I have the possibility to design the process, people have to come out, with something that has changed. Yeah, and I think
Wow. To summarize, you come out a changed person. And for people to really honestly understand it, they just need to attend, because I don't think coming out a changed person does justice to what you do. Like recently I observed you in action, the way you handled different dynamics of society. I mean, the way you handled even a bit of conflict that threatened to arise, you held it down with such poise and grace. And you took us nicely and we finished. Even now the committees are still at work after that facilitation, which doesn't happen often. So like I said, I think someone just needs to observe this to see the change that we're talking about. I think that is why then you are in demand. I mean, globally, I've never seen a person who travels the world like you do. In 2 days, if I haven't spoken to you, you might be somewhere else where you were not the previous 2 days. You are a globetrotter of note. If globetrotting was a person, I'm sure your name will be up there. So now tell us, what countries have you been to in the world?
Ooh, I try to keep track. At the moment, I've done in-person assignments in over 60 countries, 60. But most of the countries I repeat, so if I were to count, the countries as per the number of travels that I have done, yeah, it could be maybe over 100 or 150 or whatever, but because most of the countries, I repeat, yeah, so I could say over 60 at the moment.
Oh, wow. That is brilliant. That I think traveling opens one's mind. So now, with all this hard work, surely people are seeing this work that you're doing, and surely the accolades are coming in hard and fast. So, on this note, I want us to go through some of the pictures as you explain the accolades and the milestones and what. So, take us through the pictures and telling us what was happening through that. So people can see. So DJ Messi, if we have, we are very good with getting pictures and following our guests. So she's no different. We went to her social media profiles. Oh wow, I see one now. This looks like okay, let me not. You take us through this picture.
So this picture, when I talk about, teaching, it was a calling. I remember this was my yeah, I think it was the time where you were still a student also at Ketonuma Low High School. So here I was actually because I started, teaching when I was 21. So remember, I finished my school when I was 16, then I went and did, my teaching, a 4-year teaching qualification. But by the time I turned 21, I was already working. So here I think I was 23 years old, and I was given the class of matric, for the first time. And for the first time, I produced 100% results. And I received the trophy from the region to be the best teacher in the region at the time. It was humbling because I was teaching, matric for the first time, but I managed to produce, 100% results. I could say perhaps it was the students that I was teaching that were smart, but I don't know. But at least, that gave me the first award ever that I received, in my career. Yes.
Wow. So we'll be blitzing through some of this because we hardly have 15 minutes left to the show. DJ Messi, keep them coming fast because she has a lot of accolades that we need to talk about. Take us through this beautiful one.
Well, so this was 2021. 2021, I was selected to be one of, the recipient of the national orders. The national orders are the prestigious awards that are bestowed, by the sitting president of the country. And I think for me, that has been the major highlight. Someone, I think, Buti Benson Clemo, he's the one who actually submitted, motivation and all that, which I wasn't even aware of. So I received the Order of the Boabab in bronze, recognized for my contribution to sustainable agriculture, education, and empowerment of communities. So this was the award that I received from the sitting president.
Wow, getting award from a sitting president doesn't happen every day. DJ Messi, keep them coming. Mhm.
Oh, so this was at FAO, as you say, that FAO is becoming my second home. I cannot remember which year, but there was maybe 2019, if I'm not mistaken. There was a big, event here at FAO, and I was also facilitating a very special, session on what's cooking, So it was a session with chefs, chefs,
Mhm.
and so yeah. So I was facilitating that side event. Yeah.
Great. Here's another one.
Here we're in South Korea. Yeah, so there was an event in South Korea for the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services, and I was participating there. And like I said, that I always combine professionalism and playfulness. So I was joining, a band, or yeah, those who were performing, and I was performing with them there.
Yes, DJ Messi. And then here's another one. But here, I think it's a family. Yes, it's one of your achievements. So take us through that.
Absolutely. I call them my little zebras because, they are half Germans and half, South Africans, so they are black and white. I wouldn't trade them for anything. So these are my little zebras. No matter how big, they grow to be, they remain my little zebras. These are the people who keep me going all the time, and they're my number one cheerleaders.
Wow, beautiful family you have, Doc. More, DJ Messi. We have less than 10 minutes now to go, but I feel like we need to see one where she's facilitating in action, where there are those, those sticky notes on the wall. Can we, yes, take us through this session? What was happening here?
I don't know. Oh no. So this one I was actually accompanying as part of, the Perfect, I was accompanying a group of, there is a scholarship program which I was an ambassador for. It's a scholarship for farmers. And here we were in the US, where I was actually facilitating when those farmers that are coming from 15 different countries from all over the world. We had about over 80 farmers, and then I was facilitating that contemporary, scholarship, program. And here they were giving me something, to recognize my contribution.
Wow, Doc, if we were to go through all your awards, honestly, we're not going to finish. But before we finish our show today, I want you to tell people about you being an author. And DJ Messi, if we have a picture of the book that she has authored, can we please have that as she takes us through that? Tell us about you being an author and a poet.
Okay, so I mean, surely I'm a researcher. So as a researcher, I will publish, scientific, papers the here and there. But this one, it's more. I'm very poetic. Yeah, I have poetry in me and all that. Sometimes when I facilitate, I make people sing and all that. When I turned 52 years ago, I asked myself what I was gonna give myself as a present. And every time I travel, I have been like, collecting, poems. Then I realized that I had about, over 50 poems. I put together the 50 poems. At that time, I had traveled to 50 countries and I was turning 50. So I said, let me put together a collection of poetry. 50 poems, hence it's called Perfectly 50. So yes, so this is a set of poems that kind of, tell, my 50 years, life and journey. And yeah, so it's my first poetry book. Hopefully the second one will be coming. So it's a poetry book, that I published. It says, Perfectly 50, fall,
Mm.
rise, bounce back and fly higher. So it shows that at that time, my 50 years of life, I had fallen. I had to rise up. I had to bounce back, and I had to fly higher. So it's a set of, poems, that resembles, that journey of my life.
Wow, Doc, you are such a creative mind. All these things we're talking still about one person with that creative mind. What are your hobbies really?
Well, singing, of course, it has to be, my father was a priest. I come from a very singing family. I learned to sing from my mother's tummy. I was forced, to learn to sing because if your father is a priest, how else could you not sing? I love singing so much that, my elder daughter's name is named Shilombe, which means someone who sings so well. Yeah, anyway. So perhaps in my next life, I will become a singer. But other than that, I like, to explore, to push myself, to do things that I had not done before, like, I've just gone for quad bike stuff and, paragliding,
Mhm.
those kind of things that kind of, push my adrenaline a little bit. I like to do that. So during my spare time, I give myself time to do that.
Wow, talking about dynamite coming in small packages. Honestly, this is amazing. Now, you're not only amazing, but you love colors. I know you're Tsonga, but you're taking what is that? That we color blocking to another level. Now, if there's one bright person I know in and out, it's you, Doc, I must say. So take us through that. Why do you love these bright colors? And while you're taking us through that, tell us about All Stars. I've never seen a single person who owns so many pairs of All Stars in my life, like you do. And I actually think All Stars should, Converse should recognize and do something there, because honestly, you just spread their brand all over the world. So take us through your love of bright colors and what is it with the All Stars?
Actually, the love of bright colors, Mandla, it has everything to do with being Tsonga. So I remember when growing up, the Tsongas are kind of, the minority group in South Africa. And, there are a lot of stereotypes where people, when they see something that is bright, so, this Koldringa Machangani and all that and whatnot. And I think for me, I embrace that, as a statement, So I'm actually, using these bright colors as a statement to say, you know what, you take it or leave it. This is who I am. I am Tsonga. I love, those bright colors. So for me, it's more like a statement to say, even if a young Tsonga child somewhere do not feel mocked for loving, bright colors. So it's a statement for me. The All Stars, I think it was just a coincidence, and I just love that, they come in all sorts of, colors. So yes, I probably have at the moment maybe about 20 pairs of all stars, from yellow, green, red, pink, all sorts of colors, which matches with my outfit. So yes, and I have a poem where I talk about, colorfully to my heart, If you
Oh
want to
my
come to
God.
my heart, you have to come through color.
Wow. Is there a stanza, Doc, do you want to throw in a line or two so we know how to come to
Oh,
your heart?
I know, I write poem, but I don't know my poems by heart. But there is a poem called Colorfully Through to My
Yeah.
Heart. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's very interesting. But Doc, with all the knowledge that you have, are you thinking of opening, like, people have seen people hosting master classes, opening academies, and just so people can come and sit at your feet and learn, because I think you have a wealth of knowledge that we could benefit. Are you keen on that? Are you thinking about that in the near future? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I do think about it. Actually, I'm thinking I'm writing also a book on, facilitation of systemic change, because I believe that this is a skill that everybody, not everybody, this is a skill that is needed. So yes, if I were to do a master class, definitely that will be the first one. But also I'll do the master class in terms of, perfect opportunities, where I
Mm.
unpack, the agricultural sector beyond farming, because the opportunities that are in this sector, it's amazing, and people are not aware of that. So those are the two masterclass, that I will definitely prioritize.
Wow, I need to acknowledge one Kensani Ngobeni saying, you wrote your own story, Doc. This is what we should do in life. And I cannot agree with her more, because your story talks to someone who stood up and who identified the perfect opportunity and gave it their all. And now you're reaping the harvest from it, and we all watching that and we're marveling at that. So I think honestly, I agree with her. So on this note, Doc, we have come to the end of our show. But before we let our guests go, I won't let you off scot-free. We want your parting shots. What are your parting shots?
Oh, my parting shot, Manla, is that, yes, there are opportunities, and then people need to find, their passion. They need to find who they are and actually grab that and run with it. If you understand what you are worth, when you understand, who you are, you will be able to pursue, that, come rain, come thunder. And I think for me, I I know what I can do and what I can't do. That is why in some spaces, recent, I'm like, oh no, this is not my path. No, let me go back, to what I'm able to do. So I think really finding that, and perhaps this is something that we'll do in my master class, because it's not easy to find what is it, that I am actually good at and I can actually pursue. And I think, this kind of, external facilitation does help, people to unleash that emancipatory power. It's one of the poems that I have, unleash your emancipatory power.
Wow. Unleash your emancipatory power. Oh,
Yes.
wow. That is so powerful. And on that note, Doc, thank you so much. It's always lovely. It's always a blessing to listen to you chatting about all the things that you do. And please do not stop. Continue impacting the people around you. People appreciate what you're doing, and we need more of you. So please do not stop. Keep that going, because we still need a lot of that in our lives. On that note, I would like to thank our producer who produced a brilliant show, DJ Mercy, and our executive producer, Pastor Strike, and the Bold Moves Radio for giving us this platform to always share the African stories they know how. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we had for today. Stick around next week, same place, same time. We are coming back with yet another beautiful story to share and inspire you. On that note, Imina Mandla waka Mabunda, thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, Mandla.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
Streaming 24/7.
24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana, oh Afrika nakupenda sana.